All right. So I think today what we are going to see is something called as stored procedures. Okay, stored procedures. They also known as procs. Okay, sometimes the procedures are also known as procs. They call it as. All right, stored procs or stored procedures means the same. Now, just consider this case that in SQL queries, right? There are lot of queries that you use very often in your projects, okay, in order to um, get some query, like you want to see the contents of the table and how many rows it contains, what is the highest salary that someone is drawing, in terms of our example where we have an employee table. So these kind of information that you want to access very often, and you run those queries a lot of time, okay. When this kind of scenario comes where you are trying to execute a SQL queries, that you use it over and over again. So when these kind of situations arise, you can keep those queries saved or a kind of bundled together and have it saved somewhere so that you execute them with a single command. No need to write the entire query again. So you just need to execute those queries. Just say execute this query. That's it. So when this use case or this kind of situation arises, then we make use of something called as stored procs. Stored procs is nothing but a set of SQL queries that you have written and that you have saved with a certain name. All right. Like for example, this particular query, I can name it as having clause query. Just use it. And whenever you want to use it, you just need to execute a simple command called exec. We'll see what it is. Now let's consider one example now. So this example, what I'm going to show you now is just a simple example of a stored procs or a stored procedure. Now, let's say, how do you create a stored proc? First, you need to use a create command from where you are going to say create procedure. Like the way you create a table, in the same way, you need to create a procedure for one time. Okay, you just create it once and you can go ahead and execute it as many number of times as you want. Let's see that. How do you create a procedure? So use create procedure. Okay, that is the keywords that you're going to use, and then the procedure name, any standard name that you want to give. Like for example, in my case, I'll say select all employees. Select all employee. This is my procedure name. Then what I'm going to say as, and then I'm going to execute the actual query, which is select star from. So what I'm trying to do is create procedure. This is a procedure name as alias. So what is this I'm giving a procedure name for? I'm giving a procedure name for this query. So I need not write every time this query. I can just use this procedure name and execute it. And once it is done, I can say go statement, which is to execute. That's all. So what it contains: create procedure, select all employee as, or I can say just say all employees. Very simple. I can say create procedure all employee as select star from employee. That's it. I'll execute this query. So command executed successfully, which means all employee kind of a stored procs is now created. So what I need to do, how do I execute a stored proc? I can execute a stored proc using a command or a keyword called exec, which is execute. Execute followed by the procedure name. That's it. Just I need to say execute followed by the procedure name. That's all. That's all I need to do every time I want to run this command. Okay, I don't need to write the entire select star from employee and then go ahead and execute. No, I just say execute the procedure name. That's it. if I go ahead and execute the procedure name, it will do the same job as what this query will do, which is select star from employee. So all the rows from an employee are being listed down. Okay, that is the use of stored procedures. All right. Now, there might be the cases that I want to pass certain parameters to these procedures, maybe one parameter or multiple parameters. All right. So what I meant by parameters is like in the similar case, in our example, what I'm trying to do create procedure all employees, and the procedure and the SQL that I'm executing is all select star from employee. Now suppose if I want to select only a particular branch, all right, what I can do, I can put a where clause where branch is equal to 101. And what about if the branch is equal to 102? Again, I need to change the procedures. So instead of that, what I can give is a way that I can access the procedures using certain parameters. We'll see that example now. So what I meant by that, stored procs using a single procedure, a single parameter. All right. Let's say create, and creating procedure is a one-time activity. You can go ahead and execute the procedure multiple times as and when the need be. Okay, it is just trying to avoid writing the query or a set of queries for multiple times. Just write it once and use it as many times as you want using the exec command. So now create procedure, and now I'll say all employee underscore by branch. Okay, by branch. So this is the new procedure name I have given. One procedure that I have used is all employee. Now I'm going to create all employee by branch, as I'm going to give the actual query now. Select, before I give the actual query, what we needed is a parameter. And how do I give a parameter here? I can give a parameter using at symbol. At, give the parameter name, some user defined name. Maybe I'll say branch, and it will be of integer type. Okay. So whenever I'm calling this procedure, executing this procedure, I am going to give this parameter, which is branch. We'll see how we give it as, and now you're going to execute the actual query. Select star from employee, which is the employee table name. Next, here, and here I'm going to give what? Branch, which is this branch, is equal to branch ID. What is this I'm trying to say here? So this branch, whatever I'm going to pass as a parameter, should be equal to the branch ID of this table, which is from the employee table. So select star from employee where branch, which is this parameter branch, is equal to the branch ID. Now what I'll do, so here branch ID is equal to at branch. Yeah, this is the way. Yeah, at branch, which means the branch ID of an employee should be equal to the parameter that I'm passing to the procedure. Now we'll see that when we execute it, you'll be able to understand. Let's go. All right. So now this procedure I'm going to execute. So what it says, procedure all line number 6, incorrect syntax. Go. Okay. Now let's not execute the go statement. Yeah, that's it. So command created successfully. So once you have created the command successfully, the next thing is to execute it. So how am I going to execute? Suppose I'll just execute this to show you what the table contains now. The table contains these 10 rows. Now suppose, because this branch is a parameter that I have created for the procedure, let's say if the branch is equal to 101. Okay, so let's see, only get execute, which is exec, and I'm going to use the procedure name, okay, followed by the procedure name. And now what I'm going to give is at branch, which is nothing but the parameter that I have created at branch. And this branch would be equal to what? 101. That's it. So what I'm trying to do here, I'm executing the procedure where the branch is equal to 101, which means this 101 will be compared with the branch ID here, and this query will be executed. Now just execute this. So what is happening? I'm executing the procedure with a single parameter called at branch, which is created here. Oh, let me pull it a little bit down so that you can see. Yeah, here at branch is created for the procedure, and the same parameter I'm going to give for the branch ID 101. And I can go ahead and say every time I need not go ahead and change the query, just change the parameter here. If it is 101, let's say 102, what will happen? I'll execute. So it will list only the branch IDs that belong to 102 branch ID. And so is the case with 103. I can go ahead and execute 103. That is also fine. It will give me the branch ID 103. And this is how you can create a procedure with a single parameter. And now what we can do at the same time, like a single parameter we can use, we can also go ahead and create something called as multi-parameters as well. Okay, like for example, the same query, what I'm going to proc, I'm going to, let's say, copy it and add another this one for it. What another parameter I'm going to add? Let's say all employees by branch, and let's say I'm going to give the lead ID as well. Lead, or let's say lead, that's enough. Branch and lead. And here one parameter that I have given is branch, and then I'm going to give another parameter which is lead. Lead is also an int because I'm going to give this lead as well. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to create a procedure called all employees by branch and lead, and there are two parameters that I am going to give. This is the procedure name and this is the two parameters, and these two parameters I'm going to use that in this query where I'm saying select star from employee where branch ID is equal to ampersand at branch, which is nothing but this parameter, and I'm going to also use this lead, right? So what I'm going to do, I'll give and clause, and, or I can add it and right here as well, no problem. And lead ID, which is this ID from the table employee, this one is equal to at lead, which is the parameter that we have defined here. That's all it is. So what I'm going to create, what is done here, create procedure all employee by branch ID lead. This is the procedure name, and then there are two parameters that we are using, branch and lead, both are of int data type, as select star from employee where branch ID is equal to at branch and lead ID is equal to at lead. And these are the two parameters which we are going to pass while we execute the procedure. Let's execute this and create the procedure. So command completed successfully, which means this particular procedure is created. Now what I'm going to do is just execute the procedure along with what? Along with the branch, parameter branch, which is defined here. Branch, let's say, is equal to 101, and And what I need to give, I also have added another parameter called lead, right? This is another parameter that has been added. Then what I need to give is again add comma, which is separated, the parameters are separated by comma. Then you give at lead is equal to, let's say, 10,001. Okay. So now what I can go ahead and do is I can go ahead and execute this query, procedure. So there is nothing being shown here. Why? Because with the branch ID 101 and the lead 10,001, there is no records that exist. Let's see whether it is true or not. So if it is branch ID is 1, there are only 2 records, and the lead ID is 10,000, which is true, and another lead ID is null. So there is nothing called as 101. So what it showed as an output is true. Now suppose I will make this as 10,000. So I should be able to get one record, which is the record of Fatima. Let's execute this. Yeah, that is what I'm going to get it now. All right. So I have executed a stored proc with two parameters. Okay, the branch parameter and the lead parameter. Now let's consider what else the records that it contains, so that we execute this proc to see another. So let's consider 102 as a branch and lead ID as 10,002. All right. So there should be somewhere around, like, how many records? One, two, three records should be there. Let's execute it. Yeah, we are getting those 3 records. The lead ID is 102. All the 3 are 102, and at the same time the branch ID is 102, whereas lead ID is 10,002. Sorry, 10,002. So this is how you are going to create and store procs. It becomes life much easier. Understand this, guys. This is just a simple query that is containing only one where clause and only one table is involved. And in the most complex of complex situations, there are n number of tables involved, and there will be a subquery involved, a query within a query, and all that, where clauses, order by, and everything is involved, so that you have a joins as well. So the queries itself can run in pages. Okay, here we just have a 2-line query. This is a very simplest stored proc that you can see here. But in reality, these stored procs can be very complex. Okay, it runs in pages and a lot of queries are involved. You imagine that writing that query every time you execute is a very tedious job. So once you create a procedure, in order to make life simpler, just create one procedure and use that procedure name to execute using the exec command. Okay, so that will make life much easier. All right. So with that understanding of the stored proc, let's jump on to see what is known by another SQL statement or expression called case expression. Okay, case. Let me write it. It is called case. So what is this case expression? So suppose if you have seen in many programming languages like if-else conditions, right? If the condition is true, then execute a certain set of block of code. Else, if the condition is false, then execute the block which is there in the else statement. Okay. In that way, you can able to execute this conditional way of executing the query can also be achieved using case expression. Okay, so let's see how the case expression would be. Case expression has a very simple syntax. How's the syntax is, like, you can go ahead and let's say you select query, and inside the case, right? So the case is the keyword that you're going to use, and then you're going to use what is known as when. Okay, when is a keyword, then you are going to write some condition. Okay, some condition, and there is then keyword where you are going to say some result. Okay, so the case, and these can run over multiple statements. Okay, when and then statements can be multiply involved. Like, for example, there might be a number of when conditions. Like, for example, let's condition 1 then this might be a condition 2, it might be a condition 3, result, then this will result 1, result 2, result 3, and then if this condition is true, then this result will be executed and it will exit. So here last we will have something called as end statement. Okay, end statement. So what it will contain? Case, it will say when this condition is true, then you are going to say this will be the result. And the moment the result is when the one of the condition is true, then it will exit. Now suppose if this condition is false, now this condition is also false, then this condition is also false, then what will happen? Then there is a statement that contains else. Okay, else result 4 will be executed. When all the three conditions are false, only then else will be executed. Otherwise, if any of these conditions, when condition is true, then those result will be executed. Now let's take this as an example. All right, let's take this as an example and show you with a simple query using a case expression. Okay, we call it as a case expression. Suppose let's say select. Okay, now select what else we have. Let's say first name comma last name. These are the two columns that I'm selecting, and also let's select this salary as well, salary, and these three are being selected. All right, now there is a case that I'm going to put. What is that case? Case when, all right, because that is the word, the keywords that I'm going to use. When, and this is the condition, when salary is greater than 4 million. Okay, when salary is greater than 4 million, then I'm going to say salary is greater than 4 million. All right, very simple. So when this is the condition, then this will be the result I'm saying. At the same time, I can go ahead and put another, let's say when salary is equal to 4 million, then salary is equal to 4 million. This is again another when condition that I am adding to. Then finally, let's say else. I'm going to use what? Else. Let's say salary is lesser than 4 million. So one, if it is greater than 4 million, then salary will be, then we are going to say salary is greater than 4 million. If it is equal to, then we are going to say equal to. If both are false, then this will be executed, which is, then it should be always saying salary is lesser than 4 million. So the case would end by a end statement. All right, end statement. Now here is the catch, guys. Understand that the column 1, column 2, column 3, and there is a comma here. All right, which means this itself will result in another column, and that column I am going to name it as alias, let's say salary text. Salary text. Why I'm going to give this salary text another column in the output? Because inside this salary text column, the result will be added. This or this. Either of these three will be added in the column that will be created called salary text. Had it not been given, it would have been no column name. Okay. So let's try that as well. And again, let's say end as salary text. Now I can even add a comment inside the query as well. I can go ahead and say here, and then the comment ends here. Let's give without a comment and see what will happen. And then finally I'm going to say select this column, this column, this column, and create this column with this case. From what? From what table I'm going to select? Because we are selecting column names 1, 2, 3 from the table. From the table what? Employee. Sorry. EMPLOY. Where is this? Employee. That's it. So here, if you observe, there is a select statement. We are selecting three columns, and we are using a case expression. In this, the result will be the text, and that text will be creating another column, and from the table that we are selecting. Let's execute this. Yeah, if you see this, what is happening here, guys? First, Rohit Patil salary is greater than 4 million, because this condition is true for this. All right, for this particular row, this condition is true, hence it is updated as salary is more than or greater than 4 million. So the next is 5.5 million, which is also more than 5 million. But for Mahesh, right, the salary is equal to 4 million. This condition executes, hence salary is equal to 4 million is updated here. And for the rest of the bottom, what we see, it is lesser than 4 million, hence else statement is executed. This condition will be false, this condition will be false, hence this will be else statement will be executed for all from starting 5 to 10 rows. It is salary is lesser than 4 million. Now, if you observe slightly here, what it says, no column name, because we have not given any column name for this case expression. So what I'm going to do is, now I'll uncomment this and show you that this column name, no column name, currently it says it will be changed to salary text. Let's execute this once again. So now what you observe here is a salary text, that is a column name that we have given. Okay, make sense, guys? How to use the case expression?
Yes, sir.
All right, good. So again, this is also a good example, so that you can go ahead and leverage these examples as well. All right. Now, with that being said, what else is remaining in your SQL that we can go ahead and utilize? There are many other aspects that we can give. Like, for example, you have seen the create database, right? You can also go ahead and drop the database as well. All right, that also we can do. What it means is, dropping the database is completely deleting the database. Like, for example, let me exit it. So here there are two databases. Like, for example, let's say I'm going to create a database just for the sake of using a drop statement, right? I want to show how the drop database works. All right, drop statement is what? It is to drop or delete an existing SQL database. Let's say, let's not use the comment. Let's say create, let's say database. I'll use it in master. So I'm just changing it to master, create database, and here I'll create a database called dummy. Let's say I'm creating a database called dummy, and let me execute this. So what happens? Command executed, or commands completed successfully. And if I go ahead and refresh this, there will be a database that will be created, which is known as dummy. And inside this dummy, let's use dummy now, because currently it is using master, right? So let's use dummy. So if I go ahead and execute, it will change to dummy. And here I'm going to say create database. No, let's say create table. So what I'm going to do, I'll just copy this create table, so that we will just change certain columns there. Okay, nothing fancy about it. Let's say I'm going to create, inside this I'll just change this to dummy table. Dummy table is a new table that I'm creating. And let's remove this primary key. Let's not add any constraint to it. Simple. It is creating a table named dummy table, and these are the three columns that are being created inside the database called dummy. And this has been created. If I refresh it and go to this database and see the tables, there is a table called dummy table that is created. Now, here is the catch. I'm going to show you what will happen. There are two ways. All right. One is you are dropping the table. Another is dropping the database. So what does dropping the table means? You are basically removing the existence of that table in the database. Let's say, what is the simple command for this? For dropping, it's just drop, whether you want to drop a table or database. Now in this case, let's drop a table. Table is what that we have created, dummy table. Execute. Before I go ahead and execute this, okay, what I want to do is I want to show you something called as drop database. And what database it is? Dummy. Let's say dummy. And first, this is deleted now. Again, because you have already in the database, you don't need to specify explicitly. Just go ahead and say drop database table. Database is executed. If I go ahead and refresh it, refresh it once, open it, dummy. Inside the tables, there is no table called dummy table now because it has been dropped or deleted. Next, what I can go ahead and do is drop database called dummy. If I execute this, and if I need to come out of it, let's be in master and then execute it. So what will happen? Command successfully completed. Now if I go ahead and use the database and refresh it, there is no database called dummy now. So what drop database and drop table does, it will basically drop or delete the table or the database that we are trying to eliminate or remove. All right. And the same is the case if you want to create it and all that. Now, one interesting thing that I want to show another for your notice is the usage of something called as backup database. Now, what is this backup database? Backup, which is nothing but you are trying to take a copy of that database. So what it means is this backup database is again a SQL statement to create a full backup of your existing SQL database. So whatever the database it might be, like in our case, there is a database called company, right? So we can go ahead and take the a backup of that entire database. So what is that statement? The statement is backup database. Let's try to execute it and see how to do it. So the simple statement for the backup database is use backup. Next is database and give the database name. Database name is company. Database name is company to disk. So where you want to store, you need to provide the path to it. So you are trying to make a backup of this database to the disk equal to give the path. So the path might be like I want to give it on D drive. Okay. So let's say D drive, and let's say I want to make the file name read as company backup. Company backup.bac. Understand that the syntax that I need to give, extension that I need to give for the backup file is this file, which is BAC, backup file. So this is the file name and this is the file extension, and that will be stored in the D drive. That's it. If I go ahead and let's say if I execute this, so yeah, what just observe this processed 632 pages of database company file name. The file is company on a file one, processed one page of the database called company, and company log is created on the file one. The backup database successfully processed 632 pages in 0.058 seconds. All right. Now, if I go to this D drive, there will be file created with the name company backup. Like for example, if I go here and go to the D drive, there is this file that is already created. Okay, this is the one, company backup with 5145 KB of data. All right, that is how you take a backup of any database to your disk. All right, so that gives you a very a good hands on all the concepts of related to SQL.